Pause for a moment. I want you to sit with me for just a little while. My name is not important. What matters is what I am about to share with you. I have spent decades in silence, in study, in the mountains of Japan, watching life move like water through stone. And in all those years, the single greatest thing I have learned is this: we are terrible judges of our own lives. We see one moment and call it a disaster. We see another and call it a miracle. But we are always too early. Today I want to tell you a story from the heart of Japan, about a simple farmer who understood something that took me 30 years of sitting in stillness to truly grasp. And I believe, if you watch this until the very end, something inside you will shift. Not because I am wise, but because this story carries a truth that your soul already knows and simply needs to remember. So please, find a comfortable place to sit, take one slow breath, and let us begin. Long ago, at the foot of the green Harvey Hills in Japan, there was a small village. Around it stretched golden wheat fields and mango orchards, and nearby a river moved quietly through the land, the way life itself moves, steadily, without asking permission. The people of this village were simple. They worked the land, gathered under banyan trees in the evenings, and measured a man's worth by what he owned and how much he had accumulated. And among these villagers lived a farmer. He was not wealthy, he was not powerful. His home was made of mud and dry grass. He lived there with his wife, a woman of deep kindness and quiet patience, and their only son, a strong and devoted young man who worked alongside his father from sunrise to sunset. They did not have much: a small piece of land, an old ox, a loyal dog, a couple of cows. Enough, but not more than enough. But there was one treasure this family held above all others: a horse, tall, powerful, with a coat that caught the light and eyes full of intelligence and spirit. The farmer had raised this horse from when he was a young colt, feeding him, walking beside him, speaking to him the way you speak to someone you love. Over years, this horse had become not a possession, but a member of the family. Now here is where our story truly begins. And here is what I need you to understand about this farmer before anything else happens. He was different. Not because of what he owned, but because of how he lived inside. When the rains did not come and the crops dried and cracked under a merciless sun, he did not curse the sky. When the harvest was abundant and the neighbors celebrated wildly, he did not lose himself in pride. He simply worked, he prayed, he breathed, and he accepted whatever life placed before him with a steadiness that made the other villagers deeply uncomfortable. Because calmness, true calmness, makes people uncomfortable. It reminds them of everything they cannot control inside themselves. No matter what happened, this farmer would say the same words, softly, like a man who had learned them not from a book, but from life itself. Who knows what is good and what is bad? Only time will tell. Everything happens for a reason. Be patient, be thankful, and keep your faith strong. The villagers thought he was strange. Some said he was foolish. Some pitied him. None of them understood him. And then, one day, a wealthy merchant came riding through the village. This merchant had heard stories about the farmer's extraordinary horse. When he saw the animal with his own eyes, he stopped breathing for a moment. He immediately offered the farmer a sack of gold coins, enough wealth to feed the family for years, to rebuild the house, to buy more land. The whole village gathered. You could feel the excitement trembling through the crowd like electricity before a storm. He would be a fool to say no, the villagers whispered to each other. But the farmer looked at the merchant, looked at the horse, and gently shook his head. "This horse is not an animal to us. He is family. No amount of money can change that. He is not for sale." The merchant doubled his offer. The farmer stood still. The merchant left, and the village erupted. What a foolish man! He had one chance, one real chance at wealth, and he threw it away with both hands. He will die poor, and it will be his own fault. The farmer heard all of it, and said nothing. He walked back to his field and continued working. I want you to sit with that image for a moment. A man being called a fool by everyone around him, and continuing quietly, without defending himself, without needing anyone to understand. In Zen, we call this equanimity, the ability to remain rooted while the wind howls around you. It is one of the rarest and most beautiful qualities a human being can develop, and life was about to test it. A few days after the merchant left, the farmer's son went to the stable in the early morning. The rope that held the horse was hanging loose. The stable was empty. The horse was gone. No tracks that made sense, no signs of theft. As if the horse had simply decided to leave. The father and son searched for days, through the fields, along the riverbank, into the forest, through neighboring villages. Nothing. The horse had vanished completely. The village, of course, had things to say. "We warned him. He should have sold that horse when he had the chance. Now he has neither the gold nor the horse. Nothing. He has absolutely nothing left." That evening the son sat beside his father, his heart heavy and broken. The man who had raised him, and asked quietly, "Father, how are you so calm? We have lost the most precious thing we had." The farmer placed his hand on his son's shoulder, and he said something I want you to write down if you can, or at least hold it somewhere in your memory, because these words have carried people through some of the darkest seasons of their lives. "My son, what looks like a loss today may not be a loss tomorrow. Do not be so quick to call this a disaster. There is good and bad in everything. Only time can reveal the true nature of what happens to us. Everything happens for a reason. Be patient, be thankful, and keep your faith strong." The son did not fully understand, but he trusted his father, and he waited. "I will be here when you return." About a week after the horse disappeared, something happened that shook the entire village. Early in the morning, before the mist had lifted from the fields, the son heard it. The sound of hooves. Not one set of hooves, many. He ran outside and stopped. There was his horse, standing at the edge of the field, calm, as if he had simply stepped out for a walk and come home. And behind him, following in a loose and magnificent group, were 5 wild horses, tall, untamed, powerful creatures that the horse had found in the forest and led home. The family now had 6 horses. The village transformed overnight. The same mouths that had called the farmer a fool were now calling him blessed, fortunate, the luckiest man in the region. "He will be wealthier than the merchant now," people said with wide eyes. "Everything worked out for him perfectly." But the farmer looked at the 5 wild horses, looked at his son, and said with the same quiet voice, "Do not celebrate too soon, my son. We do not yet know what this moment truly is. Let us not judge it. Only time will tell." The son smiled, perhaps not fully believing there could be any shadow in such a beautiful morning. The very next day, he chose the strongest of the wild stallions and climbed onto its back to begin training it. The horse was not ready. It bucked violently. It twisted and spun, and in one terrible moment, It threw the son to the ground. There was a sound that no parent should ever have to hear. A crack, a cry. His right leg was broken in 2 places. The village healer came quickly. He set the bone, wrapped the leg carefully, and told the farmer's wife, gently but plainly, that the boy would need many weeks to recover, and that he might carry a limp for the rest of his life. Those wild horses brought nothing but misery. The farmer's own hunger for more is what broke his son. If only he had been satisfied with what he had. The son lay on his cot that night, in pain, staring at the ceiling. He looked at his father and asked, "Father, was all of this meant to happen? The horse coming back? And then this?" And his father, sitting beside him in the lamplight, said, "My son, the same rain that floods the valley is the rain that nourishes the forest. One rain, 2 realities. Do not judge this moment. Only time will tell. Everything happens for a reason. Be patient, be thankful, and keep your faith strong." 2 weeks later, before the son's leg had finished healing, the village was shaken awake by the sound of drums and the heavy thunder of horses on the main road. The king's soldiers had arrived, and they carried with them a royal decree. War had broken out on the northern border, and by order of the king, every young man in the village who was able-bodied was to be conscripted into the army. Immediately, no exceptions, no mercy, no delay. One by one, the young men were led away. Boys who had only ever held farming tools were now being handed to a war they did not choose. Mothers ran into the road. Fathers stood frozen in silence. The village, within hours, felt like a body that had lost its heartbeat. When the soldiers reached the farmer's door, they looked at the son, lying on his cot, his leg wrapped in splints, pale and unable to stand. "This one is useless to us," one soldier said. The son was spared. Months passed. The war was long and brutal, the way wars always are. When it finally ended, the soldiers who survived began their way back to the village. People lined the road, waiting, counting. Of the 23 young men who had been taken from that village, only 14 families received the kind of news that changes you permanently. Sons who had woken up on ordinary mornings, eaten ordinary meals, and walked ordinary roads were gone, and they were not coming back. The village, the same village that had mocked the farmer, that had called him a fool, a dreamer, a man without sense, sat now in grief so heavy it was like a second sky pressing down on everything. And under the old neem tree behind his house, the farmer sat with his son, alive, healing, the horse grazing gently in the field, the 5 wild horses, now tamed and working the land with strength that doubled what the family could once manage. The son looked at his father as the sky turned orange and deep purple above them. He looked at this quiet man who had never once panicked, never once cursed, never once broken under the pressure of what he could not control. And something inside the son cracked open in the best possible way. "Father," he said, and his voice was thick with everything words cannot carry. "You were right. Every single time. Every time I thought it was over, it was actually just beginning." The farmer looked at his son for a long moment. Then he spoke slowly, choosing each word the way you choose stones to cross a river. "My son, this is the greatest thing I know. Never celebrate too quickly. Never grieve too deeply. Life is a river. It bends and turns, and you cannot see what lies beyond the next curve. What looks like a flood today may be watering the fields of tomorrow. The horse disappearing was a tragedy that brought 5 more horses. Your broken leg was suffering that saved your life. We are never wise enough to judge what life gives us in the moment it arrives. Only time can do that. Only time. I want to pause here and speak to you directly. You watching this right now. Wherever you are, whatever season of life you are currently moving through. Maybe something was taken from you recently. A relationship, a job, a dream you had built for years. Maybe something wonderful just arrived and you are celebrating, and part of you is afraid it will disappear. This farmer's story is not ancient history. It is your life. It is my life. It is the truth that sits underneath every human experience that has ever been lived. The wisdom asks 3 things of us. The first is this: stop judging every moment the instant it arrives. Give life the time it needs to show you the full picture. What you are calling a disaster today may be the very thing that redirects you towards something that could not have reached you any other way. The second is this: trust the process, even when you cannot see the path. A river does not stop moving because it cannot see the sea. It moves anyway, around every stone, through every shadow, and it always, always arrives. And the third is this: stay. In the good moments, stay humble. In the painful moments, stay. This steadiness is not numbness. It is not pretending life does not hurt. It is choosing to remain rooted while life moves around you. It is the rarest and most powerful form of strength there is. The horse running away brought 5 horses. The 5 horses brought a broken leg. The broken leg saved a life. Every event was sewn to the next, each one hiding its true meaning until the time was right for it to be revealed. This is how life works, not in straight lines, not in neat chapters with clear beginnings and endings, but in spirals and bends and sudden openings that you could never have predicted from where you were standing. What looks like a curse today may become your most important blessing. What feels like a reward may carry a hidden weight that reshapes you. Life will bring both, always. Do not let either one become your entire identity. Practice patience. Not passive waiting, but active faith. The kind of patience that keeps your hands working and your heart open even when you cannot see the reason. Stay grounded in gratitude. Not gratitude for only the easy things, but for all of it, the confusion and the clarity alike. And keep your faith strong, especially in the moments when the darkness feels most complete, because that is precisely when something meaningful is taking shape beneath the surface. Do not break when it is hard. Do not lose yourself when it is good. Stay balanced. Stay grateful. Stay patient, because only when you have walked the whole story will you understand why every single step along the way was necessary. I want to ask you something now, and I want you to take it seriously. Think of one moment in your life when something broke that you thought could not be repaired. A loss, failure, a season of darkness that you were certain would never end. And then think of what came after. Did it lead somewhere? Did something grow from it that you could not have grown any other way? Did you become something in that pain that you could not have become? If that is true for you, please share it in the comments video. Not for me, for the person who is watching this right now from a place of deep difficulty, who needs to know that their story is not over. Your words could be the thing that holds someone together today. Please do not underestimate that. And if this reflection has meant so, I have a small and simple request. Share this video with one person. Someone who is going through something hard. Someone who needs to hear that what like an ending may in fact be a beginning wearing a very convincing disguise. Subscribe to this channel so that these conversations can find you regularly. Each week, I bring you reflections rooted in ancient wisdom and real human experience, offered with the deepest respect for wherever you are in your journey. And leave a like if this story touched something in you. It takes 1 second, and it helps this message reach more people who need it. I will return again with another story, another reflection, another small light offered in whatever darkness might be present. Until then, be patient, stay grateful, keep your faith strong, and please, do not celebrate too soon and do not grieve too long. Wait until the evening before you decide how the day has gone. Everything happens for a reason. Everything.